Institute's mission is to spread the values and support freedom in the Americas throughout debates, academic studies, the projects, and at the local and international level to help people of the American nations improve their lives. We are right now about to embark on the consideration of those developments that have jeopardized or threatened to jeopardize freedom and economic progress in the Americas. Among these, we have been focusing on, first and utmost, the negative effects of globalization that include the weakening of the institutional framework of the nations south of the Rio Grande and the strengthening of the absence of rule of law. The inroads made by non-state transnational actors such as organized crime and terrorist organizations that are taking advantage from the communications platform and the new technologies that have been furthered throughout the world by globalization in order to penetrate and take over government institutions in the hemisphere. The extreme case of this development being Venezuela, whose government has been taken over by organized crime. The second and most important development is the successful deployment of penetration strategies by powers that are external to our hemisphere, such as Russia and China. Russia seeking to bypass the sanctions imposed by the free world on account of the country's developments in Crimea and Ukraine. And China seeking to pry on strategic natural resources. The third factor that we are focusing on is the penetration of states by the institutions of rogue states inside the hemisphere, such as Cuba, that has penetrated several countries in the region and has opened the doors for other rogue states to come into our region, such as Iran, for example, and Syria. And the fourth element that threatens freedom and development in the Americas is the pervasive absence of rule of law in most countries in Latin America. Our task today is to try to ascertain how to collectively address these threats through enhanced cooperation and support to the civic societies and to the strengthening of the rule of law. To achieve so goal, we have enlisted a truly distinguished group of experts and leaders in the hemisphere. These are scholars, lawmakers, political toilers, diplomats, and above all, citizens of our hemisphere that are part of what Winston Churchill would have dubbed the army of willing soldiers that study and promote freedom and democracy in the Americas. Our first panel, our discussions are organized in several panel presentations and some remarks by U.S. Representative Ileana Ross-Lehtinen, who will deliver the opening statements after the first panel, and the closing remarks by Senator Robert Menendez. The first panel, we have Douglas Farrar, a very distinguished journalist, he's an investigative journalist and also a person who has followed through the major threats posed in our hemisphere by rogue states. We have Hugo Acha, David Spencer, Jorge Hernan Rubio, and Gonzalo Conque. Mr. Conque is the Chief of Staff of the Secretary General of the Organization of American States. Mr. Rubio is the President of the Interamerican Bar Association. All these panelists are very brilliant people who have focused all their work and all their research efforts on identifying the threats to our hemisphere, to freedom and democracy in our hemisphere, and then trying to mobilize action in order to prevent these threats to become fatal. So without much other ado, I will give the floor to Mr. Douglas Farrar.